Hey everybody, welcome in. I'm Brian.
And I'm Juno.
We're coming to you from Midwest Clay Project with a fun at-home clay project that you can do with very few tools. We are going to be working on some animal-themed cups. We have our finished ones here. We'll show you how to make these exact cups in this video. And this is one that Juno made earlier. So we have a cat, a dog, and a fish. So let's get our work areas ready to go, and we'll talk about what tools you're going to need to get. The very first thing you have to do is get your workspace ready. So this means probably don't work on your kitchen table because you probably want to be able to do this again sometime. So let's try and control the mess, right? Yeah. So the way that we can do that is if you have a piece of wood that you can work on, that's a really good solution. If you're at a place that has canvas covered boards, that's even better. Or worst comes to worst, you can just grab an old bath towel, maybe ask your adult which towel would be the right one, and just set this out on any kind of hard surface, okay? Now, we're going to need some tools for today's work as well. What tools do you think we're going to need?
We're probably going to need a scratch tool like this.
Right, so this is one of those scratch tools that has the teeth on it. Or you could use one of these scratch tools that I showed how to make in a different video with the needles. What else?
You're also going to need some slip or just some water.
Right, so we've got some clay slip. This is just watered down clay of the same kind we're using. Or we can use water, no problem. This water has clay in it, so it's even better. But if you just have clean water, I guess that'll do. Okay, and last but not least, what else do we need?
We're probably going to want some sort of knife to carve out the animals, like eyes or nose or ears.
Right, so the features. Now, there are special clay knives that you can use. They're called fettling knives. You don't have to use one of those. One of these simple butter knives will work. Some butter knives have teeth on them. I think this one has fine teeth. That will be fine. If yours does not have teeth, no problem, okay? So, how much clay do you think we're going to use for that? I would guess maybe half a pound to 3/4 of a pound, so not a very big ball, like tennis ball sized chunk of clay. Okay? Are you ready? Go ahead and gather your tools, and we'll get started in a beat. So go ahead and pause it. Okay. You got yourself all set up? Cool. Can you see me? Excellent. Can you hear us? Oh, we're not talking? Oh, yeah. Can you hear us? Oh, good. Great. So, can you hear me? Okay. I'm being kind of silly, huh? A little bit. All right. So, we're going to take our chunk of clay, and the very first thing we're going to do is we need to set aside some of the clay for the features. How much do you think we should set aside?
Maybe like this much.
Yeah. So I'm taking that much. I'm just going to set it over here. If you have some plastic, you can put that over it so it doesn't dry out. Oh, look at this. I got a little plastic. Now, what do we have to do to make this into a cup?
We're probably gonna wanna roll it into a ball.
Let's pound this clay into a ball. Now you'll notice we're doing this slightly differently, but you do it in the way that works for you. I'm turning my clay each time and trying to hit the clay in a part that I feel is poking out, so that's not ball shaped. How are you doing it?
Just kind of hitting everywhere and maybe hitting there again and making sure that it gets in a slight ball shape.
Okay. So mine's ball shaped. Now notice neither of us rolled ours on the table. You really shouldn't do that because
it can dry the clay out.
And you don't want to dry your clay out. Now what we're going to do is I like to hold the clay in my non-dominant hand. What does that mean? That means the hand I don't write with. So I'm a righty. So if I make my two hands into L's, only one of them actually is an L, facing you. To you all, this is going to look like my left, but this is actually my right. So what I'm going to do is give you a thumbs up with my hand that I draw with. Turn that thumb upside down, because we're talking too much and not working. And then I'm going to push my thumb into the clay while I turn it between pushes. So push, turn, push, turn, push, turn, push, turn, push, turn. And pretty soon I can start to feel the clay pushing on my palm. That's when you should stop. You don't want to push too far. Otherwise you'll have a bottomless cup. When you're done, it should look something like that. See how there is even clay all around the sides, and the hole is nice and deep, same size, centered in the middle. Nice job. Let's high five our clay. Next, what do?
We are going to want to pinch around the sides so that it gets more in a cup shape, and the ball is bigger and you can actually drink out of it.
Right, so this is going to make the cup wider. We're going to start way down at the bottom on the inside. So we're pushing with our thumb into our fingers. My hand usually gets a little tired from doing this. How about yours?
Yep.
Yeah. If yours gets tired, guess what? You can just switch hands. No big deal. And if you want, you could just alternate one on one hand, then one on the other. Now we're going to speed the video up. Try and keep up. How did yours go? Good. Ours went pretty well. So on this one, I want to show you a couple of things just because. If your clay does something like that where it cracks at the top, that is okay, but you need to get your finger wet, touch it on that spot, and then kind of blend the clay together. And you want to do this pretty hard. You don't want to just push lightly. You really want that crack to go away and never come back. Okay? And then if you have something like this, that's not really a crack, it's just a fold in the clay. And so for something like that, we're just going to blend it by smushing the clay back and forth. You could use a little bit of water, but you don't want to use too much water or the whole pot will get flimsy and hard to control. Okay, we're going to trade because this one was actually Juno's. Now, the other thing I want to show you is try not to get the lip, this top edge that you're going to drink from. Don't leave it too thick, and you want it to be pretty thin, but don't squeeze it until it's paper thin, or that's going to be too sharp to drink out of, and you won't like that very much. If yours is cracking a lot, you can get a finger wet and smooth it out. But again, be careful with how much water you use, because you can make the clay too squishy wet, and then it just starts to fall apart, right?
Yep.
That's not really fun.
Next,
I'd like you to tap your cup gently so that when it sits on the ground, it's going to have a flat bottom. What kind of animal are you going to make?
I might make like a dog.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Cool. I think I'm going to make a fish. Yeah, why not? So let's get our clay. And how should we start?
So what I would do is just make it really like flat,
Okay.
and we're gonna want it
So you can push it on the board like she's doing. I'm working on a towel, so if I do that, I don't think I'll like the texture I get, so I'm just going to flatten it between my hands.
And you're gonna want it pretty big, but it doesn't have to be giant because, well, the features are not going to be ginormous.
Okay. Here's how flat mine is.
So, for me, I'm going to start out with a nose. I'm probably going to do a triangle. And I'm just going to like lightly put it on there so I know what shape I want.
And what if you make a line where you don't want it?
You can just smooth it out or flip it over. You can really just start over because
As long as you don't cut deep, right?
As long as you don't cut deep, it won't like make any problem to your.
Cool.
And there we go. I have my nose shape.
Good job. let's go ahead and attach that right away too. Show us how you do that.
So you're gonna want to scratch on it. So I'm gonna do it here, and then we're gonna want to attach it. Okay. And then I'm just gonna
Paint both sides.
paint it on there. Yep. And I'm just gonna want to kind of like smooth the edges on there, so it doesn't really look like it was just stuck on there.
Oh, pretty good. Okay, well Juno's working on her next thing. I'm going to work on making some lips. I'm making a fish and they don't have noses, so I don't think I'll need to do that. So I just cut a strip off of the edge of my slab. Slab is what you call a flat piece of clay. So here's another one, and what I'm going to do is put these lips on kind of next to each other on the side of my cup. So I'm going to scratch the backs. Notice that I'm using a different kind of scratch tool. I'm using these needles. These are kind of sharp, so if you're using these, be a little bit careful. If you used yarn needles, it might be a little bit less, so it might be a better tool for the job. And then I'm going to use water for mine. It won't really matter. Both will attach really well. If you have slip, use it, but water will work just fine. So I'm putting my big upper lip on the top, and now when I attach these, notice that my thumbs are inside the cup supporting, and my fingers are gently, so gently pushing on the lips so that they stick to the side of the cup. Now, unlike Juno, she blended hers in, which is a great idea, and I like the reason she gave for it too. I am going to not blend these so that you can see the edges, because I think fish lips are kind of funny. And I want them to be a little more prominent, and I think they will if I don't blend them in. Okay, there's my fish lips. I gave it kind of a funny expression too, I think. Yeah. So are you making an eye?
Yep. I'm just gonna make a circle.
Here's another way you could make a circle too. I'm just going to take a ball or a chunk of clay and roll it into a small ball.
Oh yeah, why didn't I think of that?
And I'm going to make this be my circle. And if you want this flat, guess what? No big deal. Just squish it down and it will be flat. And that way it has rounded edges, which I kind of like.
Yeah, I'm doing that.
Okay. Since fish kind of have googly eyes, I'm going to not squish mine all the way. And then I'm going to put my eyeballs on the side of my pot, far, far apart, so that it looks, have you ever heard the expression wall-eyed? It kind of means, people say that as, it's like the opposite of cross-eyed. It's super hard to do. If you can get your eyes to go both out at the same time, that's a pretty good trick. I can't do it.
Cannot.
I can cross-eye.
I can hardly go cross-eyed. I can definitely not go, whatever it was called.
Wall-eyed.
Wall-eyed.
And a walleye is a certain kind of fish too.
Oh.
Quite tasty, might add. Okay, I'm going to scratch up my eye. Wait, my clay eye. Don't scratch your real eyes. You only get one set of those. I'm going to scratch the back of the eye for my fish. And then I'm going to put the eyes way over here on the side. Oh my gosh, this is going to look ridiculous. I'm going to use a pencil
Yeah, you could also
to poke a hole in the eye. So here's what mine looks like so far. Now we're going to speed this up and add some more features. What are you working on?
I'm actually putting some details on here that I cannot really do with,
So that's the mouth. You want to turn it towards the camera?
that I cannot really do with, bits of, like, clay. I just scratched that on there.
And what did you use to do that?
I used a needle tool, but you could also use a pencil or a pen.
What's next for you?
I still actually haven't done my eyes yet.
Oh, yeah.
I did one of my eyes and then I realized it was all dry.
Why is that bad?
It was just a little harder to work with and I wasn't as satisfied with how it looked.
Oh, okay.
But I'm some more clay. This is getting pretty hard.
Yeah. So sometimes that happens if your clay is sitting out or you've worked it a bunch. It gets kind of dry and crackly. The best thing to do with that clay, if you're at home, is just throw it in the garbage. If you're at a studio that can recycle it, you just put it in the scrap barrel. And that's what we'll do here at Midwest Clay Project. One thing I think I might do is I might put a big fin on the back,
Oh yeah.
and then I
that's
could
right.
use it as a handle.
Oh yeah, you could like carve out a little bit like in the middle.
One of the things I like about this project is you could do it again and again
And it
and
can be
just make new
different.
animals each time.
Yeah, and it can be different, but it's the same thing.
Okay, so I have attached my back fin. I do not want to pick it up by this fin at this point in time though, because there's a good chance
That it would just fall.
it'll break. One thing I want to tell you before we run out of time here is you should always tap the bottom of your pinch pot in just a little bit, not too much, but you want this middle spot to be lower than the edges so that when it sits on the table, it doesn't rock around too much.
Should I like support this on here more? Do you think it'll fall off?
As long as it has a pretty good connection point on the side as well as the edge, I think you're going to be just fine. And yours actually could work as a handle too. Okay, so we're all done adding features to our clay animals. Are you happy with yours?
Yeah, I noticed that the two ears are in slightly different spots, but
Yeah.
I think it's kind of cool how this ear is like closer to the eye because I've seen in movies like Sing, like some of the animals, like maybe some of their ears or something are kind of like made their hair sort of and
Oh,
I
yeah.
think this kind of looks like it's like covering its eye, like yeah.
Yeah, I agree. If I had more time, I'd probably press scales onto mine, and I could still do that later, but so there are always more details you can add, and the more time you spend on it, the better it will look in the end. But you want to be careful that you're spending time on it, but not letting the clay get too dry and not letting it get too thin. You can pinch these pinch pots to death. Okay, this is Brian.
And this is Juno.
We hope you enjoyed this one.